Alright, so the Pikachu Special Illustration Rare seems to be climbing to new heights, which is kind of unexpected, I kind of feel, because I personally didn't think that it would be such an expensive card, which I'm going to be taking you through that today in this video. However, this is where we're in a really interesting position now, because we did have the Greninja from Twilight Masquerade, we've had Magikarp, and now this Pikachu seems to be the hottest thing right now, though it's going to be really weird or interesting, or what's going to happen when Prismatic Evolutions releases and all the evolutions come out. Now we are in the most exciting time for the Scarlet and Violet era, especially going into 2025, because it seems 2024, the closing chapter, it's really making you think, hey, I don't know, man, but those evolution cards that are going to come out, depending on the pull rates, they can go and climb quite high. Not only that, but you've also got the Team Rocket set coming out in 2025 and a lot of new sets. So, I think this is kind of foreshadowing of what we are to expect in 2025. My personal opinions on the Pikachu, I'm going to be taking you through that. I did say when Surging Sparks, the cards were revealed, I looked at the Pikachu and I was a big fan of it already. I thought it was a really good card. Did I think it would get the prices of what it's selling for right now? Absolutely not. This has blindsided me, and I think a lot of collectors are surprised with the price. I mean, I even saw it was obviously shill bidding on eBay, but I saw that there was a listing that it sold for it was going for like 40,000 or 50,000. It was obviously a fake bid, but that's the kind of demand, or that's the kind of aura this Pikachu has around it. There's so much demand, there's so much hype. And I suppose it does make sense in a way, because Pikachu is the mascot of Pokemon. Like when you think of Disney, it's Mickey Mouse. When you think of Pokemon, it is Pikachu. So Pikachu does have that real strong kind of demand within Pokemon just because it is the mascot, right? It is such a loved Pokemon. It is on every branding. It is everywhere you see. I think most people on the world, no matter their age, would be able to tell you who Pikachu is. It's such a famous Pokemon. But I want to just take you through a few things before we go into the Pikachu's pricing. So the first aspect I want to talk about is the artwork of this card. So yes, it is a special illustration rare with the rainbow borders, which have become now quite prominent within the Scarlet and Violet era. We did see these kind of slowly come out, and now they're kind of coming out far more. Pretty much every set that releases now does have the rainbow border. I personally really like the artwork. I think the rainbow border and the crystals work really well. I think the way they frame Pikachu makes it really look heroic, and it stands in its own place. It does seem like a very obvious Pikachu chase card. Sometimes when you look like the Latios illustration rare, yes, it is Latios, it's in a more unique pose, but this one, no, you can actually see Pikachu's face. It's almost like a profile shot of Pikachu, which makes it really cool, and I think that's why a lot of collectors like it. Do I think it deserves to be the top chase card of Scarlet and Violet? Kind of. I do think that while the artwork is cool, I think the Greninja is much more of an interesting artwork and an art piece than this Pikachu. Of course, that's my opinion, right? I think the Greninja has a little bit more personality with its design for a card to become the top chase card. When you look at the Latios and the Latias from Team Up, that was like Sun and Moon's top chase card. When you look at Moonbryon, when you even look at the Greninja, these kind of characteristics have such unique aspects about them that make them top chase cards. I don't think this Pikachu has that real dividing factor where you go, whoa, this looks like the top chase card. I don't think it has that aura. That is, again, my opinion. I do think the artwork isn't on the level of some of the other chase cards we've seen that become top chase cards of an era. Moving on to the pull rates, okay? This is where I think Surging Sparks has done some wild things, and it's pretty much sold out nearly everywhere you go. It's very hard to get Surging Sparks at the moment, right? But you can see right here, to pull any special illustration rare is 1 in 87 packs. So it is very hard to pull a special illustration rare. However, to pull a specific special illustration rare like that Pikachu, it is 1 in 960 packs. Absurd pull rates, man. These are very, very difficult pull rates. And now we're kind of in an era where it's like, wow, this is hitting that Chilling Reign Evolving Skies level. Not there yet, because like I said, Moonbryon had or Sylveon VMAX, those kind of chase cards in Evolving Skies, were 1 in 1,600 to 1 in 1,700 packs to pull. So it's definitely not hitting that Evolving Skies, Chilling Reign kind of pull rate level, but still very, very difficult to pull. Though what's really interesting here, when I'm just looking at Surging Sparks pull rates, is the hyper rares, man, because look at this. To pull any hyper rare, which is the gold rares, is 1 in 188 packs, but to pull a specific hyper rare is 1 in 1,127. That's telling me that the golden Pikachu EX card is technically the rarest card in the set when you kind of mix it with desirability. Does that mean it's going to get the highest price? Not necessarily, because I still think special illustration rares have far more of a collector community that want to grab them. I don't think that those gold rares have the same kind of pull power like a special illustration rare, but of course, we're going to have to see how prices go within the future. And I mean, if you've pulled Surging Sparks or you ripped open a booster box like I just did, you can actually notice that yes, my experience with Surging Sparks was that it was a very hard set to pull for. Of course, I only opened one booster box. I will be trying to open a few more packs on the channel. So moving forward, let's get into the pricing of the Pikachu Special Illustration Rare. Now, of course, I have to tell you that we are most certainly in early days, meaning prices tend to stabilize 3 to 6 months after a set's release, because right now we're in the high period, right? It is the high point for Surging Sparks. Everyone is talking about it. Now, also another factor that you have to kind of put into the mix now is that Surging Sparks is getting harder and harder to find in a booster box. Even when I opened the booster box on my channel, a lot of people were saying, man, I can't get Surging Sparks. In Australia, I'm noticing that I have to pay a little bit overs to get a Surging Sparks booster box, which is definitely strange for Pokemon. So now I'm on TCG Player looking at the prices of the Special Illustration Rare Pikachu. Now, what's really interesting, on pre-release, this was selling for around 300 USD to 298 USD, pretty much a $300 card. Now, that still was really, really expensive for a pre-release card in comparison to previous Scarlet and Violet singles. So that was already showing like, wow, this Pikachu is already performing far beyond expectations of what a lot of collectors, investors, and enthusiasts thought it would. Though what's even more weird is the price that this has increased is something that I haven't seen in this hobby for like such a long time, because look at this, right? It was selling for 300 USD, that's pre-release. Then it went up to around 480 USD. That was just one day after Surging Sparks released. And right now it's selling for around 596 USD per raw copy. That is very high pricing that's a little bit scary to get into this hobby when we haven't seen something like this for a while. I mean, even when looking at other mainline modern cards like Moonbryon, you know, last year was selling for 494 USD to 500 bucks. That was considered a very expensive card, but it had a lot of time to kind of establish that price point. This Pikachu is just getting this price within a few days after its release. So this is a very interesting time to be within this hobby, and it's kind of having a knock-on effect to a lot of other areas within the hobby. Now, a lot of people are confused whether or not they should buy the card or what should they do, right? And I think if you are new to the collecting scene, usually what happens is when cards release early days, they do have that huge spike in price. I think you get a much more sober overview of the entire picture around 6 months after the release, because then you can see that the market has found some sort of price point that they're all willing to pay. Right now, when I'm seeing 596 USD, I see a price point that has a lot of FOMO, has a lot of hype, but maybe it's not the market's price point that's been established. You know, prices take time to kind of bake in. It might go higher, but I would much rather buy this when I know what the market is willing to pay for a little bit of a stretch of time, rather than just buying it now on a whim and I'm like, oh wow, and then it crashes 250 USD in value in 6 months because the market couldn't maintain that price point. You know, I think that market confidence needs to kind of settle in before a lot of people buy this. But you know, if you are buying this card right now, it might be a good purchase. You might have overpaid. Though in saying that, the PSA 10 copies of the card have also gotten really, really high prices on eBay. So I'm just checking this out. Look at this, 31 bids. It sold for 3,100 USD. And of course, before that, it sold for 2,868 USD. That to me is kind of wild to be buying that right now and paying that kind of price point. I just don't know who the buyer is. Is that just someone who just wants it now and they cannot wait? I don't know. To me, buying at that price is very, very high. And also, it doesn't really make sense. I mean, Latios and Latias, the team up card, is at that price point, but it's had, you know, 4 or 5 years to get there to kind of establish that price. You know, we have seen cards go to this price before, but usually you'd think that there would be a little bit of a time and a bit of a waiting period to see how long it takes to get there. I think these sales are very overinflated. Of course, course, that's just my opinion and my oversight with TCG markets. I definitely cannot see PSA 10 copies holding at this. I may eat my words in a year, I might look at that, but I think these prices are a little bit overinflated for the PSA 10 versions. Now, in saying that, when we're moving forward, we can see the Golden Pika, which actually is the rarest Pikachu in the whole Surging Spark set. You can see this at pre-release was selling for 40 USD, and now it's shot up all the way to 127 USD. I'm not surprised because a lot of Master Set collectors will want to get this in their sets. If you're going to try complete the Surging Sparks Master Set, you're going to need this card, and this is the hardest card to pull. All these gold cards are. I can definitely see this price holding here because of how hard it is to pull. Moving forward though, we can see the Hydreigon, which I did think was one of the coolest cards in the set. On the pre-release pricing, I saw a lot of other cards outperforming the Hydreigon, though I can see now, yes, it has had a little bit of a decline. It's sitting at 90 USD. I think that price point for the Hydreigon is pretty fair. I can see it going up. I can also see it going down a little bit, depending where collectors want to spend their money. Like, don't forget, Prismatic Evolutions is coming, so collectors will be a bit more strategic with what they buy, because I can assure you, a lot of collectors and investors are going to want to get the Evolution cards. Some cards are going to have to be missed out. You know, this Hydreigon may make that cut for a lot of people. They might say, hey, I'd rather get the Umbreon SIR than the Hydreigon SIR. So that decision is going to be made collectively by collectors at the moment. Moving forward here, we can even see the Latias Special Illustration Rare, the EX. This at pre-release was selling for 220. You can see it dropped down to around 185, and now it's selling for 207. Interesting. I think the Pikachu climbing so high, this is kind of your second best option, the second chase in the set. And I can see this card also being very expensive within the future, though right now with these prices, it is too early to tell where they're gonna bake in. If you are new to the hobby, what usually happens is it usually goes up, then it has a little bit of a down curve, and then it finds a price. Now, it doesn't always mean it's gonna go down. Like the Greninja didn't really have that. It just kept going up. But in saying that, when we're looking at these prices in comparison to previous sets and their pull rates, then the pricing does seem a little bit overinflated, but we have to remember that Surging Sparks is quite hard to get. It's not such an easy set to find in stores at the moment. Booster boxes are getting harder to find. You do need to pay over retail price at the moment. So given the fact that we don't have much news of how much more stock's going to come out, and that means we actually have to be quite open with where the market can go right now. It can really go high, it can really get drawn down. We don't know yet. It's a very big waiting game at the moment for these singles. Now, the Milotic SIR has fallen quite a bit from pre-release. As you can see, it was selling for 99 USD, and now it's selling for 81. A good $20 drop. Though again, like I said, there's so much coming in with collectors at the moment. There's so much hype. There's so many things happening right now within Pokemon collecting that I think a lot of people need to be a bit more picky and choosy with these high priced cards. You know, it's very hard now if you want to get the Surging Sparks Master Set to drop 500 or nearly 600 USD on a Pikachu, then drop 130 on the gold Pikachu, then spend $100 on Hydreigon, and then buy this Milotic, then buy the Latias as well. You know, collectors do need to be a bit more strategic with what they're buying at the moment. We can also see the Latios Illustration Rare, and again, pre-release 52 USD, and now it's dropped to around 41 USD. I do think that this price is quite fair for this card, especially because when we're looking at Groudon from Paradox Rift, I kind of put these two on the same level. I don't think that that's too overinflated at the moment, nor do I think you're getting it for a steal. I think that this is actually one of the more fair prices in the market at the moment. Now, moving on to some of the sealed product, you can see the Surging Sparks booster box. Now, check this out. In the last 3 months, you can see it was selling for 148, you know, before it even released, and then it went down to 115. That was for pre-orders. Now you can see, I'm going to pull that into the 1 month graph, and you can see how much Surging Sparks booster boxes are climbing. Right now, the asking price is 175 USD for a booster box. So this is also something we need to put in the equation. Twilight Masquerade, you didn't have problem getting booster boxes. Paldea Evolved, when it released, you didn't have problems getting booster boxes. Even with Pokemon 151, you didn't have problems getting ETBs or UPCs on release. Yes, booster bundles you would have, but still you could get the product pretty easily. I think because the prices are like this at the moment for sealed booster boxes, that's the differentiator of Surging Sparks with other sealed products in the Scarlet and Violet era. So, you know, if you are buying products and buying singles, you do need to keep this front of mind. Though with all that said, I think investing in collectibles is becoming far more popular and way more people are getting involved in Pokemon investing. Though if you are interested in the reasons why I love investing in Pokemon collectibles, then you should click this video that's appearing on screen right here. Within this video, I uncover the reasons why I love investing in Pokemon and collectibles in general, and I go over some interesting points. Click that video that's appearing on screen right now and we'll talk more about it there. I'll see you there.